Next, let's learn a little about how to get a system you'll be happy with. First of all, you have to decide if you want a wireless or a hardwired system. What's the difference? Both types of systems use the same kinds of sensors. They all use switches at doors and windows to detect them opening and closing. They all use other types of sensors like motion sensors, glass breakage sensors, and fire sensors. The difference is, with a hardwired system, there has to be a wire connected to every sensor in the house, at every door and window, and each of these wires has to be routed through the house, under carpets, around baseboards, and closets, and attics, and basements, through walls and floors, and back to the main unit or panel, the brain. That's a lot of drilling and a lot of holes in your home, and a big mess. And don't forget, every hole drilled blindly into a wall can result in damage to your plumbing or electrical system, even by the most experienced technician. If they're honest, they'll tell you about the damage. If they're not, they'll try to cover it up and hope you don't find out. In a wireless system, all that wire connecting the sensors is eliminated by a miniature wireless radio transmitter built into each sensor. The brain or main panel has a radio receiver and hears the signals from the sensors in your system without all those wires. In the beginning, I installed wireless and hardwired systems. Over time, what I found was that my customers with wireless systems were a whole lot happier, had a lot fewer problems, and were able to enjoy a lot of features that were unavailable on hardwired systems. Let's talk about false alarms for a minute. The fear of false alarms is the biggest concern people have when they think about getting a security system. If you get a system that uses cheap equipment, or if the system's designed or installed improperly, there's a good chance you're going to have false alarms. And if you and the kids are suddenly awakened in the middle of the night by a loud siren more than 3 or 4 times, know what you're going to do? You're going to unplug that thing and never use it again. Now, whatever you spent for it, that's money you just threw away. If you get a properly designed system using high-quality components and installed by a competent professional, it would not be unreasonable to expect you could use that system for the next 20 years without ever having a single equipment-related false alarm. But when you have a hardwired security system, simply by virtue of the fact you now have thousands of feet of wire strung throughout your home connecting everything together, you invite all manner of wire-related problems which result in false alarms. What could happen? At any point, wire can become corroded over time, increasing its electrical resistance. Water can short wires. Wires can break or have manufacturing flaws. During installation, a staple can pierce the insulation or jacket of a wire. Often, wires run along the edge of wall-to-wall carpeting beside the carpet tack strip. These tacks are extremely sharp, and wires are pierced by these tacks. Sooner or later, a mouse gets inside, and mice love to chew on wires. Over time, wires can be pinched or chafed. If run too close to nearby electrical wires, there can be induced electrical current. Any of these situations, and many others, can and have resulted in false alarms. And after you've got literally thousands of feet of wire installed in your home in finished areas, how easy do you think it's going to be for the technician to find the problem? One of the greatest benefits of a wireless system is you've just eliminated all those causes of false alarms. That's a huge advantage. Just remember, where there are no wires, there are no wire problems. Here's another problem with hardwired systems. Let's say you have double-hung windows. In a hardwired system, unless you have an extremely conscientious company, switches will only be installed for the bottom sash of each window, not the top sash. That means if the burglar breaks the catch and pulls up the bottom sash, you'll have an alarm. But if he pushes down the top sash to come in, you won't. Your window's only halfway protected. Does that sound good to you? Me neither. Well, why not just ask him to put switches in the upper sashes? Here's why. Twice the switches, twice the labor. You just doubled the cost per window. With a good wireless system, only one sensor is used for each window, and that one sensor protects both sashes, upper and lower. Now the window's fully protected. If you're going to do this, doesn't it make sense to do it right? Oh yeah, before you let them drill into your windows, better be sure they're not going to void your window warranties. Because if those windows start fogging up in 6 months, you're going to be caught between a window manufacturer that says you drilled holes in his windows and a security company that says their holes didn't cause the problem. Anderson Windows recommends using wireless sensors to avoid voiding their warranty. What about future changes or additions to your system? Let's say 2 years down the road, you want to change that sliding glass door for a French door, or you're going to get replacement windows. Or let's say you just want to add some sensors to your system. Maybe you decide you want to add a natural gas sensor, or a carbon monoxide sensor, or a flood sensor. With a hardwired system, you're looking at a big labor charge. Once again, wire has to be routed through your home to accommodate these changes or to add these new sensors. More drilling into walls and routing wire under carpeting through attics around baseboards. A service call like this can take several hours, and some companies charge $95 an hour for their technicians. With a professionally engineered wireless system, everything is modular. Any future changes or additions are handled in minutes, not hours, so you're never paying a huge labor bill. That also means you can start off with a small, basic system and then add more sensors 6 months or 6 years down the road. But with a hardwired system, the salesperson is going to urge you to get the largest system possible right away. Why? One reason is they'll get a bigger commission check. But it'll also cost you more later to bring a technician back in to start running all that wire again. The same thing applies to repairs. Most hardwired systems come in an 8-zone version. That means there's 8 loops of wire going out from the main panel. Each of these loops of wire is called a zone, and each zone could have 2 to 6 switches or other devices on it. Let's say your system's been in for a few years, it's out of warranty, and now you're having a false alarm problem on zone 2. You call the company and a technician comes out. They check your system and guess what? Everything's working fine. At that point, they can either shrug their shoulders and leave because they can't find anything wrong, which leaves you with the problem, or they can go through and replace every device on that zone. They tell you that it costs $450. Your response? Well, go ahead and do it. We can't keep living with this thing going off in the middle of the night. Several hours later, you're making out your check. The next day, guess what happens? That's right, you get a false alarm on zone 2 again. Want to know why? All the sensors on that zone were fine. The problem was in the wire itself. If the technician really wanted to be sure the problem was gone, they had to replace not only all the sensors on that zone, but all the wire on that zone as well. That's a big job. Now you got more drilling holes, more mess, more money. I've been on enough of these service calls to tell you it really happens, and it's not cheap to fix. In some of the better wireless systems, the keypad has a status button. If you ever have a problem, just press that button. The system immediately tells you the exact cause of the problem and the exact location of the problem. The security company already knows about it because it called the monitoring station to relay the same information. Now, if you need a technician, in a matter of minutes, not hours, your system's fixed. Isn't that a whole lot better? Here's something else to think about. Voltage surges. They happen in our homes all the time. We're usually not aware of it because nothing's damaged. In a hardwired security system, every sensor is ultimately connected back to the electrical system of your home, meaning every sensor sees and is affected by voltage surges. What's that mean to you? Sensors can be damaged by these voltage surges, which may render them ineffective without your system being aware of it. From that point forward, every time you turn your system on, those points are no longer protected, even though your system says everything's okay. With a wireless system, no intrusion sensor is in any way connected to your home's electrical system, so they're unaffected by voltage surges, making them far more reliable over time. With a wireless system, the technician can use the best location for each sensor. They're not limited by where they can get the wire to. They can install each sensor exactly where it'll do the most good or where it's least noticed. And finally, an investment in a good wireless system is a one-time investment, not one that needs to be repeated 3 or 4 times over the next 20 years or every time you move. Why? Because wireless systems are modular, they can move when you move. It takes about an hour to pull your system out and pack it up for you. When you get to your next home, just arrange to have it reinstalled at your new location for just a labor charge. You already own the equipment. No need to buy another system. I know folks who have had their systems over 20 years and still use them every day. Well, to sum up, why you should insist on a wireless security system. No wire-related false alarms. Full, not halfway window protection. No window warranty issues. Future changes or additions easily accommodated. Simplified, quick repairs. Sensors unaffected by voltage surges. Optimum location of sensors, and movability, making it a one-time investment. Is this making sense? If you're going to get a wireless security system, it'd be best to have it installed by a company that only does wireless systems. If that's what they work on all the time, chances are you're going to get a better installation and better service. Question number 2 to ask a security company is, do you always recommend a wireless security system?